There you go. Let's go. You ready? Ready? We're gonna start? Want you to start or no? Just tell her, Mickey got it. Rachel, just tell him to be quiet. Tell the guy in the back to be quiet. The guy talking on the phone, just tell him to go outside if you don't mind. Good? You ready? Let's go. Okay, welcome guys. Welcome to the Lighthouse. Okay, let me do the sponsorships. They have me working everything today. Anonymous, in the memory of Edward David Shaul, for the Refuah Shalem of Shaul ben Berda, Lior Gabbai ben Michal, and thanks to me for the impact. Anonymous, in the honor of Menachem Mendel bat Manya, for Parnasa Hel Shalom Bayit, and for Baila ben Manya, for the Zivug, continued success of her children. Ahuva Berman, Refuah Shalem of Sipi Bar Rivka Leah, Andrea Madeo, also in gratitude for the classes, Eric and Samara Feeler, in thanks for the classes in honor of their son Jacob Feeler, 21st birthday, Simcha Bunin for Ben Smadar, in the Zechut that you should have a successful, meaningful, and happy adulthood. David Ansel, in honor of Gedalia Ben Reina, gratitude for the classes, Chumi Miller, in honor of Levi Yitzhak, Moshe David Shifra, Freda by Nechuma, and Nechuma bat Chaya Rivka, and for Yirat Shamayim and blessings. Leah Fruchtenbler, for the salvation of her children, Halama, and Anonymous for Refuah Shalema of Miriam bat Esther. Anonymous for in recovery Moshe ben Chana. Anonymous in the that Hashem should help Yosef ben Maro. They should be cancer free, and Vizrat Hashem you should have Refuah Shalema for common Shmuel ben Chaim ben Akar. And Refuah Shalem of Chaya bat Chana, Menachem Mendel bat Sarah, and Devorah Fege bat Razel, and also Michael Bemelech, success for a new baby girl. Bless Mazel Tov to Michael. Okay, guys. So we're going to talk about Parnasa 101, money. This is something that I've done a lot of classes on this, and I've pretty much looked for every single angle on how to optimize our mazal. Obviously, everybody has a different mazal. Some people are born with the ability to make much more money than the other ones. But here what we're looking for is, bless you. Here what we're looking for is a concept called contentment. Contentment. You know, wealth is a person who's happy with what he has. But the word here, we're talking about contentment. We're wealth. Also, to be able to also get more than what you're supposed to. Rabbi Victor Miller says that it's not that you want to pray that you want to become a billionaire. Doesn't mean God's going to answer you. It's going to answer when you have trust in God, you're going to get what you deserve. So that's the key here. We want to optimize our vessels instead of, God forbid, block them. Okay, so we're going to talk about 14 strategies on how to do this. And believe me, they all work. You have to understand that every single thing in life is a test from Shemayim. Why? Because God is hidden and God is concealed. So ultimately, everything's a test. What do you do on your good days? What do you do on your rough days? What do you do when they cancel the contract? What do you do when you do everything, and next thing you know, you can't do everything right? Those are the days that you get tested. And I've seen the greatest opportunities come from the greatest disasters in my life. Where I saw a clear disaster ended up being the best opportunity. This is the way that God made the world, in order to test us. So we need to understand that. A person has to realize he's going to get tested. And this is exactly the Parshas Haman is telling us here, that our mentality will be our reality. Your mentality will be your reality. You know, what do you look when a deal goes bad? How is your response? That is where Emunah and Bitachon takes place. Can we just close the door if you don't mind? Can you close the door? Perfect. Okay. So let's start with the Parshas Haman. We know Tuesday was a propitious day to pray for Parnasa. And this is the day that they say that it's a gula for actually Haman. So, but it's not enough just to say Parshat Haman. It's you actually have to live Parshat Taman. What is Parshat Taman? What is it? What is exactly God is telling us here? So he says here, God said to Moshe, behold, I am raining down from you bread from heaven. Let the people go out and gather what they need for each day so I can test them. Remember that line. Money is a test. You need to understand that. You need to understand that. Without that, right away, you can completely get lost. Because things are going to happen. Listen, thank God I have a few businesses, and there's days that I can't understand anything. But I know that it's a test. And when I go into Emunah, that's why we're going to talk about here, that the word manhu, what is this? When the Jews looked at the man, they said, what is this? Manhu is the same value as Emunah. That means, what's going on? What is it? I don't know what it is. That's when you have to apply Emunah. So Emunah is very correlated to the man. It's a test. So here he's telling us here, I'm going to test them. Remember, number one thing about money, you need to understand it's a test. Person he can put 6 months effort in the deal, and next thing you know, he says, wow, if I have to go for another deal, I have to wait another 6 months. That's not true. That's not true. You can wait. You can make a deal in 6 months, it can fall through, and then the next buyer can buy it in a week. So we need to understand it's really the test. The test comes. Obviously, what am I getting tested if everything's going smooth? What am I doing when the deal is not going through? What am I doing when there's no business? What am I doing? What am I saying to myself? That's really what we're going to work on. Those days that the things are not going smooth, the orders are not coming in, those are the days that prepare the vessels for the next deal. So you have to be very careful when you're mood, because when a person's in a bad mood, what's going to happen? He's going to say the wrong things, like he's going to say, there's no business in Miami, there's no money here, this business is dead, that business is dead. Your mindset is dead. It's not the business. But when we say those things, what are we saying? God, you're not big enough to provide for me. So when you talk defeat and you expect to win, it's pretty much impossible. You can't talk defeat. You have to talk victory. Of course, you have to have the strategy, but you can't talk defeat. Number one thing, you cannot talk defeat, because talking defeat is what? It's the opposite of Emunah. What's the opposite of Emunah? Doubt. So either you have faith or you have doubt. Very simple. You can't have both. You can't be half pregnant. Either you have Emunah or you have doubt. And we're going to talk about key factors that will open up vessels, and key factors, God forbid, that end up closing them. Okay? So remember, behold, I am raining down for you bread from heaven, so I can test you. Go gather the man so I can test you. Let's remember also another key factor. When God created us, what did he say? When he revealed this, he says, I'm the one who took you out of Egypt. He didn't just say, I'm the creator of the world, because he wants a relationship from you. He wants you to depend on him. You can't just say, give me my money for 1 year. Don't bother me for another year. It's not what he wants. He wants the day-to-day grind, the day-to-day conversation, the day-to-day looking up to him. He wants you to depend solely on him. And you'll see in your life, you're going to get put in that position where all of a sudden, the end of the week, what's going on, the next thing you know, the deal comes through. So like I'm saying, you have to understand something very important. He wants a relationship. Okay? Because the source of livelihood, Reb Nachman says, because the source of livelihood comes from a very lofty place, what you can do with money. See, there's nothing wrong with money. It's the pursuit when people don't have money, when they lack money, what they do for it, the stealing, etc. But money itself comes from a very, very high source. That's why the Gemara says, a wealthy person has many friends. Why does he have many friends? Because people are attached to his soul. This person has a higher soul, so he attracts more people. He says, one's livelihood comes from a very lofty place. A person is tested in many ways to see if he's going to conduct his business and earnings in a proper manner. In the desert, the Jews were tested daily. What happened? They would see, are you going to hoard the money? Are you going to work on Shabbat? What are you doing with the money? So it was daily tested to see what they would do. Will they depend on the man tomorrow? Or will they keep too much the one day before because they don't think they're going to have? So again, Jews are born to worry. And we need to understand what worry does to us. Worry has a dramatic effect in Shemayim. Obviously, you're a human being, you're going to worry, but at least what you could do is you could understand that you are worried, and you can try to cut the patterns. You understand? It's normal to worry, everybody worries, but you have to cut the pattern. It's one thing to say, I had a bad day, and one thing to say, I had a bad hour. It's a big difference. The guy says, how was your day? Horrible. What happened? One incident happened, the whole day's gone. But you could say I had a bad hour, but at 12 o'clock I renewed my strength and the day began. That's what we have to do. We're going to get that bad hour, but you have to make sure that hour doesn't become a bad day. Because what happens, then you have a bad week, and then you have a bad month, and then you have a bad year. You understand how this happens? The key is to interrupt. Why? Because every single hour is different energy in the air. 1 hour could be chesed, another hour could be gevura. Every single hour has a different energy in the day, and you almost have to live like that. You have to live like that. And this is what he said. What he's saying here. The same thing. A person who wants to wish, he has to have faith and trust that God will provide for him that day, and he has to make sure that he's present. That every single day has its bracha. So again, if a person had a bad week or a bad couple of days, he can't say his business is no good. Why are you doing this to me? All of these things, what happen is they destroy trust. Trust is ultimately the key to making a vessel. Very simple. Trust, when you trust in God, what are you doing? You're attracting the blessing and what you need at that moment. It's like the law of attraction. When you trust in God, what happens? When a person trusts in God, what happens? He draws mercy to him. So God gives him mercy. Person, what's the opposite of trust? Fear. What happens when you have fear? You attract what you don't want. See, it's very simple. Either you attract what you want, or you attract what you don't want. If we know today, what is really anger? Anger is a person who lost control. He lost control. It comes from a fear. Anger is a form of fear. He's afraid of something. He's afraid he's going to lose money. He's afraid he's going to lose the deal. So he gets angry. But the anger is really fear. So the only really way to work that is really through trust. Through trust. So you have to understand, if a person has trust in Hashem, then it's less likely he's not going to get angry. But if a person has no trust in God, obviously he's going to lose it every single day. So and this is eventually we're going to talk about what are the results of those things happening. We also have to understand this. How is heaven connected? This is from Rav Noam Elimelech, and he says, when Parshas Behar, the Jews used to ask, what will we eat? What will we eat? They're going to ask, what will we eat? How do we know it's going to work out? What will we eat? So when they asked the question, when the Jews were supposed to do Shemitah, on the 6th year, they were not allowed to plant. After the 6th year, 7th year, they had to take a sabbatical year. So what did they ask? They asked, what will we eat the 7th year? How do you know you're going to provide for us? So what happens is God created the world in His goodness and created pipelines of Shefa to each of us. But the blessings of Shefa are ceaseless, but when a man falls from his spiritual level, what does God have to do? He actually has to reconnect the pipe. How do I fall from my spiritual level? When I start asking questions out of doubt. When I create too much worry, what's going to happen? And that disconnects the pipe. So what happens? Hashem has to reconnect it. So when we worry, what do we need to really do? We need to give charity to reinstate the pipe. Because what happens when you disconnect the pipe? You don't trust. So when you don't trust, you have to reconnect it. How? What's the best way to reconnect it? Giving charity. Because you're actually giving away money. You understand? So either I'm disconnecting or I'm reconnecting. So the good thing is, anytime a person, that's what the Gemara says, anytime a person is struggling financially, he should give charity. Which makes absolutely no sense. When you're losing money, give charity. How does that make any sense? It makes no sense. But what's happening in Shemayim? You disconnected the pipe by worry. Again, you're a human being. Everybody worries. But is it an all-day worry? Is it anxiety out of control? Or is it an hour? That's what we have to work out. We have to really interrupt our patterns of thinking. Remember, we are not a worrier. We have a habit of worrying. You need to understand, I am not a procrastinator. I have a habit of something. I'm a soul. But what happens, I start creating these habits. So I need to separate me from my habit. Because if you say, I am this, then you say, I'm hopeless. I can't change. Right? It's very important to separate. And how do you separate yourself from that? You have to create new habits. By saying, I trust in Hashem, reading as much as you can, every time you listen to a class. Why? Because new thinking, new information creates what? New thinking. If you have new information, you have new thinking. If you have the same information, you're going to have the same thinking. So every time you listen to a class, every time you learn something, automatically you should say, okay, it's a new thought, I should apply that thought. It's very, very important. So we always have to apply that. So that's the difference between that. So we're going to talk about 14 factors that open up your pipeline or close it. Let's talk about what a pipeline is. Pipelines are, Shefa has to come through. In Kabbalah, there's these 10 sfirot. These are the 10 sfirot. You see, it's a pipeline, very simple, like a pipe. Here's for the camera. It's a pipeline. You could probably have it at the Kabbalah Center and all these pipelines. But it's just like a pipeline. So it's not that there's a lack of light. There's never a lack of light. It's always the problem with a blockage somewhere in the sphera that a person is holding. Somewhere the energy is off or on. Let's say, for example, a guy's sick. He has a headache. It's what's happening. He's all of a sudden, he's stressed out. What happens? He basically disconnected God from the situation. You understand? I have a headache because I can't stand the way things are going right now. It's too stressful for me. I'm not accepting God's will. So what happens? I lose light in my head. God's light is gone from my head. You understand? That's what a person is sick. It's called the word chole, missing light. If you're healthy, you have what? You have 100% light. But if I'm sick in one area of my body, that area is missing light. That's why you could see today, there's many people that are having major back pains. And the emotion is due to fear, and it's connected to your lower back, your support. So it's unbelievable how God created the world that every part of our body is connected to a different emotion and the different thing that's affecting. So a guy can have a backache and he's thinking he's got to go to chiropractor. Meanwhile, the problem is fear, and that's affecting his back. It's unbelievable how your body's connected directly to that. So God's sending you a signal. So remember, we're either connecting the pipe or we're disconnecting the pipe. Very simple. Many of the best, we speak about Ray Dalio, we speak about a lot of people. The real key in life is to fall fast, fall often, and get right back up. In business, I spend very, very, very little time thinking about it. I go all in, I learn the mistake quickly, and I change. We also don't want to get into this procrastination. Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? Who's got the answer for that? So you almost want to get it over with, get into the deal, learn the lesson quickly. And through trust, you'll find the solution in that business. Sometimes I got into one business, next thing you know, led me to something completely else. But when you don't take action, right? What's the difference between faith and trust? Right? Faith is, I believe. Trust is, I do. Right? A guy could say, I believe I'm going to get married, but where's the ring? Yeah, I want to get married. I believe I should get married, but until he puts the ring on it, he's not getting married. Bottom line. So, same thing with us. Sometimes we do have these deals. We have business deals, and we're afraid to go because we're afraid of what? We're afraid to lose. What are people going to say? Maybe we're afraid that we're going to lose people's love if we fail. People, what are they going to think of us? But the key in business is you have to go right away. Go all in. Get smacked right away. Learn the lesson and again and again and again and again. That's what's worked for me 100 times. I spend very little time thinking because at the end of the day, I know my life is a lesson. The same thing when a person gets married. What do you think? You're guaranteed success with this marriage? You're not guaranteed, but you're going to learn on the way. Shh. You're going to learn on the way. You're going to learn on the way. There's no perfect shidduch, but that shidduch can become good if a person works it. Okay? So what are the 14 things? Number 1, taking responsibility versus escaping. Right? It's good to buy Netflix. It's not good to watch Netflix all day long. You can buy the stock, but you can't binge on Netflix. What happens what are you doing when you're binging life? What's going on? You see everything binging. Oh, look, there's a show, 7-hour binge. Or 5-hour, I can be on the beach and binge that together. Binging means I'm running away from life. What do I need to do? Approach life. That failure that I had in business, what am I supposed to do the next morning? Ask Hashem to help me. So taking responsibility draws shefa. Lack of taking responsibility, that's why when you go on a date with a guy, you ask him, how do you deal with your tough days? What do you do? What do you do in your tough days? Guy that's drinking, he's smoking to handle his problems? That's going to get really old really quick. So you want a guy to what? Take responsibility. Get up. How quickly do you get up? That's a question you need to ask. But watching Netflix all day long and buying Netflix is a big difference. Big difference. This is what Nachman says here in lesson 7. He says it here. He says, anyone who assumes the role of a provider to supply livelihood for those dependent upon him, that means the guy acts like a king. He says, I'm going to provide for you. I'm going to give you confidence. What happens? He's able to draw shefa. But, because what happens, livelihood is drawn from this concept called malchut. Again, malchut is the last vessel. This is malchut. When you talk about malchut, we're talking about the sphera of the last vessel. That's ultimately the vessel where shefa comes through. But if the guy doesn't have the vessel, what happens? He has no vessel. He has light, but he doesn't have vessel. So taking responsibility is a form to gather shefa. When a person takes responsibility, he gets married. He doesn't say, you know what, I'm afraid to get married, I'm not going to have enough money. I'm afraid to do this. He's not taking responsibility. He's not drawing malchut. He's not drawing the kinship. He's not drawing that. So he says when a husband girds himself to take responsibility for his wife and obligates himself to provide for her, as it says in the contract. What does it say in the ketubah? I will cherish you, honor you, support you. He is granted blessing from there. So you can see these single guys that are fooling around, what they're missing out. They're missing out on businesses. They're missing out on potential. They're missing out on so much blessing that's all on escrow because he doesn't want to take responsibility. No, I can't. I don't want to deal with this headache from this Jewish girl. I'd rather with this girl. She's nice to me. She cooks me dinner. She washes my feet. Whatever you're doing, but yo-yo, what are you doing? You're missing out on the second half of your soul. Do you understand? You look for a business partner. You look for somebody to cut your nails. You want a second half of you. So what's happening is this person, he gets shchita shemayim. Because he's not taking responsibility. He's not doing what he's supposed to be doing by saying, you know what, I got to go look for the right girl, the second half of my wife, and that's where the blessing comes from. So that's the problem especially in Miami. Miami's, as soon as people get to Miami International, their soul goes MIA. They go MIA and their soul goes MIA. Everybody goes MIA when they come here. But because what is it costing you? You understand? What is it costing you? It's costing you your blessing. What are you doing this for? Do you value yourself? If you value yourself, you would look for the second half of your soul. If you don't value yourself, then you would continue with the nonsense. And what is it costing you? It's costing you big. Either you pay in ounces or you pay in pounds. These people are paying in pounds. So again, that's what Reb Nachman says. So by getting married, by having Shalom Bayit, that draws a person to have this responsibility. So taking responsibility versus escaping, we want to zoom in, not zoom out. Zooming out means no emunah. Zooming in means what's next? What do I learn from this failure in business? What do I learn from this? What can I get up and do? What's God telling me from this? That's zooming in. We don't want to zoom out. Zoom out means I'm stuck, you gave me too much, leave me alone. And you don't have no idea how much zooming out I've seen. And they're suffering in all ways. Second, patience versus anger. Very, very, very important. Again, because money is a test, Shefa, money, comes from Gevura, comes from the left side, which is here. This is the left side, which is same place as anger. So money comes from the left side, which is Gevura. So because it comes from the left side, it's also going to get tested with anger. Because money and anger come from the same place. So before, Reb Nachman says in lesson 68, before a person is going to receive a deal, He's going to receive an opportunity. Right before that, he will be tested with some stupid test. It could be tortillas, it could be this, it could be the most biggest nonsense. And you see it all the time. And sometimes it's going to come from your very own wife. So she'll put that, or your mother-in-law, she'll put it exactly where you need to hear it, so you get upset, and that's where the shafa is. So you have to understand, one breath can make you money, or it can make you lose money. Obviously, if you get a habit of anger, then obviously it's going to lead you, God forbid, to avoid a zara. So patience versus anger. Patience is breathing in, anger is venting out. So we have to know how to respond, not react. Very, very important. Money and anger, very related. Obviously, when a person's angry, he doesn't like what's happening in heaven. He doesn't like the fact that something didn't go through, but that's going to cost you big. We don't want to be in business with angry people because it's a guaranteed loss. Because there's no vessel they're going to get. 3, fear versus trust. When a person has fear, what does he do? He's chasing away his vessel. He's breaking his vessel. Why? Because whatever he fears is going to come upon him. So when you trust in God, you do the opposite. It's not that God's not there, but when you have fear over something else, God removes himself and he allows you, for that specific thing you fear, to have control over you. Let's say, for example, you fear a competitor in your business. Next thing you know, you stop fearing Hashem. So what happens? That competitor will now bring this fear upon you. And all of a sudden, you're going to be focused on the competitor instead of focusing on God, who's providing for you. Big mistake. So fear versus trust. Trust is a vessel, fear away from the vessel. 4, emunah versus doubt. Again, the ability to bounce back quickly is emunah. When a person has a failure and he has doubt, what is he going to say? He starts losing his confidence. When you start losing your confidence, what happens? You try to oversell a customer. You seem desperate. You don't have that calm confidence that we want. When you can see when people lose their faith, what happens? They start rushing. They start becoming impatient. You can tell the salesman that didn't make a sale the whole day. She's all over you. Leave me alone. You can see she's desperate. We don't want to be desperate because we need to understand that blessing comes from Hashem. And emunah is the vessel to receive. Trust and emunah. That's it. But remember, it's not enough to have faith. You need to do. When the Jews were splitting the Red Sea, Hashem said, why are you crying out to me? Move. Take action. Stop praying already. Now it's time to take action. You're praying enough already. I heard the prayers. Now you need to take action. Same thing with, please give me my shidduch. Please give me my soulmate. Okay, she's right in front of you. Take action. Commit. It's not enough just to believe. You need to commit. Committing is the currency that gets you from A to Z. But action. We can talk all day long. But if you're not committing, no action, worthless. 5, peace versus machlochet. Obviously, God dwells with a person who has peace. Obviously, machlochet, Reb Nachman says that, not Reb Nachman, our sages say that one parnasa, one machlochet can chase away 100 opportunities. So we have to be careful. What are we fighting about? We don't want to major minor things. You could be fighting over something, and next thing you know, there's 100 opportunities you lost because of one fight. So the easiest thing is to forgive. Easiest thing is don't major minor things. Sometimes you have to say, let it go. But when you want to get, and I gave this example, imagine having a retail store with 100 customers, and one customer is complaining, and you're yelling at the customer, you're right, or telling the customer you're wrong. Meanwhile, there's 100 other customers in the store, and you're wasting your time verifying whether this customer is right or wrong. You would look pretty foolish. Same thing with us. We need to understand. Every fight is an opportunity cost. That means that fight that you're dwelling on, it's costing you something else. Because God dwells with peace. Very important. So, and everybody's got a problem with somebody in their family. So, mother-in-laws, family, whatever it is. Nobody's safe from this. But you have to, when you give in, what happens? You create peace. What happens with peace? Shefa comes down. Blessing comes down. So sometimes peace, lack of peace, brings, God forbid, these problems. So we want to think big. We want to think big. Rabbi Rush also says that when a person honors his wife, what happens? He takes away, because the original curse was that a woman was going to be under a man. She would be under him. She would be dependent upon him, because that's one of the curses. So God says, because you're nice to your wife, you respect her, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to remove the curse of making a living with hardship. Measure for measure. So if you're nice to your wife, Hashem's nice to you in business. If you're not nice to your wife, you lose in business and you lose at work. You lose at home and you lose at work. So because you went out of your way to remove the curse from her, God will remove the curse from you. So it's a win-win, basically. When a person honors his wife, that's why the Gemara says, when a person honors his wife, he's going to merit wealth. When he doesn't, God forbid, what happens? He loses the vessel. So we have to, without the proper education, without the proper dad, you're not looking at the big picture. If we're not looking at the big picture, what happens? We get caught up in minor things. Shalom Bayit versus Shalom I had it. Either you have Shalom Bayit or you had Shalom I had it. There's a correlation between Shalom Bayit problems and money problems. I can give you probably 100 stories. When there's Shalom Bayit problems, there's anger, resentment, all of these things, there's no vessel. So you say Shalom I had it. What else do you think goes with Shalom I had it? Money. Because there's no vessel. So Shalom Bayit is something you have to invest in like it's the biggest business deal you've ever had. That's how important it is. Because ultimately God dwells in the house when there's Shalom Bayit. If there's no Shalom Bayit, God removes himself from the house. What are you going to do in life? What are you going to do in life when God removes himself from your house? So it's very important. Again, when you want to get married, you need a person that learns spiritually and is able to have emunah and doubt and da'at. If he doesn't have the right da'at, what's going to happen? He doesn't know anything about Shalom Bayit. So remember, Shalom Bayit or Shalom I had it, because Rav Nachman says here that money comes from the nefesh. He says here in lesson 69. Lesson 69. So you guys understand this concept. He says that the word nefesh means the soul. He says the lights of wealth, which is the same thing we're talking about, wealth, the soul, anger, it comes from the same source. These lights are the aspect of wealth, because wealth and the soul are from the same place, from the Gevura, from the north. Wisdom is from the south, right? From the works of the Arizal, he says, that the final aspect of Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama, which is the part of your soul, that the woman, and the second half, that means when you're getting married, what are you doing when you're getting married? You're actually completing your own soul. You're a half a soul right now. You're half. So when you get married, you're actually completing your soul. That's why people says, I need my soul mate. What do you mean your soul mate? Yeah, I'm looking for the second half of me. So if you're looking for the second half of you, where are you looking? Where are you looking for the second half of you? Would you want the second half of you looked in some of these places? So we want to invest in a person with love, not lust. Lust is not your soulmate. Love is your soulmate. Big difference. And again, and he says here, this is what the Gemara says, one who lives without a wife lives without a wall, lives without wealth. Because he's not going to be able to have any kind of joy, blessing. He's not going to have peace. He's always going to want the next thing. He's not going to have a wife to calm him down, to prepare for him, etc. So that's what the Torah is saying. When your person gets married and he takes responsibility and he has Shalom Bayit, that is the ultimate blessing. As this is what our sages said. Honor your wives in order that you become wealthy. Each man enters this world, comes with his prospective spouse, the amount of money he's destined to have, and the amount of children he's supposed to have. It's already planned out for you. But you do have a Yetzer Hara, but you do have free choice that I need to get to my mission, but there's a Yetzer Hara telling me, go somewhere else. So that's what we need to understand. So this is all very connected. And this is what happens, that when a man lights his wife, when a man practically makes his wife happy, what happens? Her soul expands. When a man does not make his wife happy, with fear, what happens? Her soul contracts. See the problem here? When you bring worry to your house, what happens? The wife's soul starts freaking out. She's freaking out. She's afraid. So what happens? Her soul contracts, and then that affects you. So it's all related. It's all related. The relationship between a man and his wife is very much like the relationship between Hashem and the person. So the wife is really a sort of a mirror effect on what the husband should be doing. And then what happens here? When her light is completed through the money, when he's able to provide for her, then she's able to mekudeshet, which is the word kiddushim. He removes her from the negative forces of that. So remember, shalom bayit versus shalom hayadid is a big deal. Is a big deal. A person has to invest, and the only way to have shalom bayit is to have humility. Humility, being able to close your mouth at the right time. That's pretty much it, to tell you the truth. If you do that, you'll be okay. 7, charity versus greed. Person that gives charity, obviously, it's the opposite of greed. What's causing me to go crazy? What's causing me to do the extra thing is greed. I'm not happy with what I have. So when I'm giving charity, what am I doing? I'm offsetting greed. So when a person is getting too greedy, he feels like he always needs to have more. The way to cool it off is obviously through charity. 8, purity versus impurity. Reb Nachman says, and we know this from Yosef Atzadik. Yosef Atzadik represents the numerical value of 156. 156 represents the word lechem, bread. Bread is referred to our livelihood. Yosef Atzadik merited double the blessing. Why did he merit double the blessing? Because he was able to stand against Potiphar's wife. Okay? Who lost the blessing? Reuven. Reuven moved the bets. So when a person keeps the brit, he's able to get the double portion. He gets his portion, and he gets the other guy's portion. So keeping moral purity is very connected to parnasa. Also, we need to understand, what do klipot do? Klipot make a person have a drive. First, the guy loses the money, goes for the girl, and then he loses the money. It's very, very, very connected. And Rav Nachman says that the struggle you have to make a living is very connected to moral purity. So the more moral purity, the easier it is to make a living. Opposite also. So again, it's a choice we need to make. We need to be, one way or another, you're going to fight. Fight the right way. Okay? 9, simcha versus sadness. Simcha, Rav Nachman says that the word simcha, first of all, simcha frees your mind. If a person's practically in a problem and he has happiness, what's going to happen? He's going to be able to come up with a solution. Because God does not dwell with people who are in a state of anxiety, depressed. That means you're not going to get the answer to your problem. So simcha allows you to free your mind. From freeing your mind, you're going to find the solution to your issues. But when your mind is not free, what happens? You can't come up with a solution. Then you become a pattern of thought. So by having simcha, you're going to be able to draw shefa. Not having simcha, God forbid, you only get the little bit of it, and what happens? The rest of it goes to the other side. So it's not like his blessing is never. If it doesn't come to you, if your vessel is broken, it's not like it doesn't come to you. You get just a little bit to survive, and the rest goes to the other side. It goes to the impure forces. It goes to the casinos. It goes into all the other things. So again, we want to make sure that these are things. So when a person's in simcha, and I promise you, today's generation, it's a fight for happiness. Because of online media, because of all the things that are going on. It's a fight. There's not a day that I don't fight. And even though I'm blessed with so much, but the Yetzer Hara, depending on your level, is extremely powerful. And I tell people very simple. You don't get judged for having the negative thoughts. Your job is to struggle against them. The reward is how much you struggle to fight the negativity. That's the reward. It's not that, don't think, I feel bad, I'm getting these negative thoughts. Everybody gets them because the negative thoughts come from Hashem. But your job is to fight it. Fight it. The amount of effort you spend on fighting it is where the reward you get. So again, don't feel bad that you get them. Your reward is to fight them. Like when you have those bad, rough days in business. 10. Extending your days versus shortening your days. Rav Nachman says in lesson 60 that the key to wealth is to extend your day. What does that mean? Practically waking up earlier, waking up with a new attitude every day. If I wake up, like I said, you know what? today is my first day in business. Never went to business before again. Imagine if every time you prayed, you said, this is my first prayer. Or every time you did a class, this is my first. That renewed energy is Keter. Anytime you say, this is my first time, I never did this before, you get a new enthusiasm. But what happens is when you become too much of a pattern, then your days become short. What does days becoming short mean? That means you wake up with anxiety, you wake up with fear in your head, so your days are very short. Remember, our breath is an indication of wealth. When a person has a long breath, right? His breath is long. He has contemplation. A shortened breath is what? Anxiety. Anxiety, fear. That's a shortened breath. So we want to extend our breath. There are 3 things that take away our breath, right? Is what? Lust. What does the guy say? She took my breath away, right? She took your money too, right? She took my breath away. She took everything from you. Don't worry. Not just that. I ate so much food I can't breathe. Not good, because what happens? Your breath is shortened. That's what Reb Nachman says, that a person who overeats, constantly overeats, he's going to experience poverty. God forbid. Overeating equals poverty, because you're hiding an emotion, and you're far away from the truth. And the third thing is money. I'm so stressed I can't even breathe. So all of these things, the breath is an indication of your spiritual state. Your breath is the word neshama, and neshima is the same word. So my soul and my breath are very connected. So when we meditate, when we breathe, right? You're connecting to your soul. You're calming down. You're getting back to square one. So remember, very important, extend your days. Extending your days means going out to the world and looking at the world completely different. Looking at your business completely different. Looking at everything completely different. Not saying same thing, because you lose that refreshness. So remember, extend your days, not shorten them. How do you extend your days another way? You get up early and you have gratitude. When you get up early, you have gratitude, right away your mindset is different. But when you get up early at 9 o'clock, you have 3 frappuccinos, and you get to work, it's going to be the same pattern. One little thing goes wrong, I can't believe this happened to me again. It's been happening to you again the same week, every week. Get the hint. That means you get the same lesson in life until you pass it. It means if something's not working, you need to change your procedure or your perception. Do something different. Wake up half an hour earlier. Change it up. Change it up. Always got to change it up. So extending your days versus shortening it. Obviously, the 11th is Shabbat. We already spoke about Shabbat, how all the blessing comes in Shabbat. The person keeping Shabbat is able to gather that blessing, and that's why it says that everything's on account of Shabbat. So if your struggle is, where everybody has a specific struggle, if your struggle is with Shabbat, you need to at least, if you're not there yet, pray to be there. Just say, you know what, right now I'm not there yet, but I want to be there. I know I'm missing something that I can't see, but I want to be there. That's how you get it. It has to start with a desire. Even if you're not there, pray, please. Something I'm missing out here. At least help me get to that state, okay? 12, stay in your lane. Stay in your lane is a big money issue. Reb Nachman says in Sefer in Wisdom, he says that the Satan, the evil inclination, will invest a lot of money in one guy. He'll give him $3 million. The guy he's a rasha, he's a crook and everything. What happens when he gives money to this guy? This guy is going to get 20 other guys. He invested in him. But they're going to say, look, this guy's rich, and he's not doing this, he's not doing that, why should I do it? There you go. He got you. So he says the Satan has money, and he invests in crooked people sometimes. They have money. There's no reason why they should have money. They're thieves, but it's given to them by the Satan so they can get other people to follow them and to get them. Why not? You invest in one guy, you can get 20 other people. You know how many people told me, I don't understand how this guy has money and I don't? I'm not keeping any of this. Stay in your lane. It's not your business. There's Hashem's business and there's your business. What God gives to other people is none of your business. And guess what? Most accidents today are because people are not in their lane. They're not in their lane. Stay in your lane. You're not God. And you're not in the middle of a movie. So sometimes you see a guy making money, next thing you know, he loses it in the business. It's not your business. And this causes envy, which is the 10th commandment. And the 10th commandment says, which Rav Nachman says in lesson 69, that when you look at other people to want what they have, you know what happens? It's considered robbing. It's considered like you're stealing from them because you want what they have. If you want what they have, you better take the whole picture. Don't just take the good. Take the family, take the alimony payment, take the headache, take the this, take that son. You can't just want, everybody just wants that, oh no, I want this. No, you can take the emotional problems, the anxiety attacks. Make sure if you want what other people have, make sure you take the whole package. And then you're going to say, oh no. Thank you, I don't want it. So again, the last one is obviously, so again, envy destroys. The last one is Rav Nachman says in lesson 9 that splitting the Red Sea and Parnasa are both required. They're both as difficult as splitting the Red Sea. It means Parnasa and Shalom Bayit. And finding a zivug is as difficult as splitting the Red Sea. What does the Red Sea represent to us? It represents prayer. That means the quality of your prayer could determine the quality of your relationship, the quality of your zivugim. Also, quality of your business deals. Maybe you have you want a better realtor? Pray better. You want a better buyer? Pray better. The quality of your prayer will determine the quality of your wife and the quality of your business. So obviously the effort is to be made in prayer and not in all that. All right? That's today's class, guys.